I recently played through Resident Evil 4 for the first time, and I was truly amazed by everything this game accomplishes. Of course, this game has a legacy and is massively influential, but unlike other massively influential titles like Ocarina of Time or Mario 64, Resident Evil 4 is still the fun, refreshing, and deeply tense masterpiece it was when it was released all those years ago. So what did Resident Evil 4 do so well? Well, I think it's just how fun they made this game, and the fun revolves all around the game's many mechanics. Game developers have a lot of options at their disposal to present to you a unique and interesting game. Some games use their aesthetics and visual design to break up the monotony almost inherent to their genre. Some games break convention, using the medium itself to shock and subvert the player's expectations. Games can tell stories and use atmosphere to create a unique experience as well. But Resident Evil 4 is a game about pure fun, and it mainly relies on the many little mechanics it contains, and combines them into a perfect circle of events that all influence and affect each other.
Come on. Let's go home.
Shinji Mikami's mission statement with Resident Evil 4 was to first and foremost make it fun. And in that regard, Resident Evil 4 succeeded, and then it defined how fun in a third-person shooter was going to happen in the following generation. Resident Evil 4 has an almost perfect game loop. Everything you do in this game is going to feed into the next action you take. Starting with the basics, so you have your weapons and your enemies. Just about all the weapons have a multitude of uses on the many enemy variants Resident Evil 4 will throw at you. The weapons' uses are so easily translated to the player due to the location-specific hit animations. Having these specific animations leads to a variety of outcomes possible for dealing with your enemy. Need to take out 1 or 2 enemies? You take out the pistol. A group of them in a tense situation? Pull out the shotgun for high damage and high spread. A line of enemies or enemies far away? You pull out the sniper. A group of stunned enemies? Take out some grenades, a grenade launcher, or use the moment to back up and reload. The knife and context-specific QTEs also provide more options to deal with enemies, as well as providing a smart way to deal damage while conserving ammo. There's a way to utilize almost every action at your disposal, and you're going to have to due to the variety of enemy types you'll encounter as well as limited ammo for your weapons. Pictured here is a simple graph showing how encounters in Resident Evil 4 can pan out with your more standard enemies. Now, looking at this clip, you can see the shielded man and the helmeted man. And while they're pretty basic in terms of how they differ from your more standard enemies, they add that extra layer of depth into every encounter. The shielded man makes you want to prioritize taking out a sniper or a shotgun to get rid of him as he's protecting the other enemies around him, while the helmeted man completely locks off an entire chain of events shown previously. Mixing different enemy types into the groups of enemies you fight is a great way to incentivize constant weapon switching and attempts at new tactics, and makes combat in Resident Evil 4 about weighing what you can do next against the risk and reward of the action in question. And that's not factoring in weapon loadouts, the amount of health you have, or how much ammo you have left, which all also fuel your snap decision making. Movement in Resident Evil 4 is very limited. Your field of view is incredibly limited, you have tank controls, and not much mobility besides a run. Your best friend is the turning 180 degrees button, a crucial element in running away from enemies to safety. Movement is hard to get used to at first, but you slowly master the way the game works and it begins to feel perfect in your hands. Aiming with the controller takes some time to get used to, but you slowly get accustomed to this as well. Playing Resident Evil 4 on a Wii or using a mouse and keyboard exposes how easy this game could be if you had the pinpoint accuracy these control methods provide. Enemies maneuver and attempt to dodge your attacks in ways that weren't designed for the precise tracking allowed from a mouse or Wiimote. A look at using a standard control style in Resident Evil HD Remake rather than the tank controls the game was designed with also reveals how much easier the game is without its tank controls. Without the tank controls the game was designed around, you can just zip around enemies and traverse the environment with no issue. If you applied a more modern control method to Resident Evil 4, the effect would remain the same. The game is tense partly due to the limiting but not clunky control scheme. Being tense is integral to what makes the game so fun. People talk down on tank controls in retrospect, but there are many games that need them to work as intended. You also see people stating Resident Evil 4 doesn't use tank controls. Although looking at this mod showcasing more classic camera angles, it's obvious that nothing about the controls changed, just the camera. The gimmicks Resident Evil 4 throws in to mix up the combat are also, for the most part, pretty great. The one exception to this is the final boss, which I'll get into in a bit. Using the boat to fight Del Lago is a lot of fun while also staying within the bounds of combat that the game lays out for you. Another good use of a Gimmick 4 boss enemy is the Garrador, an enemy made hard because the target is on his back. Normally a weak spot like this wouldn't mean much in another shooter, but going back to the tank controls, the fight is made tense due to your limited maneuverability. He wouldn't be an issue if you could just easily run around him. The final boss of Resident Evil 4 is really the one part of Resident Evil 4 that I found to be really lacking. I went in the first time with about 15% of my health, like 20 pistol bullets, and no healing items. Normally this means you would be in a tense battle, praying the enemies drop some ammo. But no, you just do a couple QTEs and stage gimmicks and he's pretty much dead. It's an anticlimactic finish to an otherwise almost perfectly paced game, as well as a shining example on why gimmicks like this don't really work. Yes, this game's menu does need mentioning. It certainly isn't the beautiful sight to behold of the Persona 5 menus, but Resident Evil 4's menu, specifically its inventory system, also plays a huge part in this game. The easiest way to show why this menu is so great is to just take a look at Resident Evil 5. This game's inventory is, put bluntly, not great. Resident Evil 4 has an inventory system where items take up roughly as much space as they would in real life. It worked well, it was fast, snappy, and enjoyable to organize strangely. You're slowly allotted more spaces as the game rolls on through the shop, allowing you to further add more weapons to the mix to add just that much more variety to every encounter. In Resident Evil 5 we have a 3x3 grid that never expands, where everything takes up the same size. It was changed in Resident Evil 5 due to cooperative play, and while that does make sense, it still highlights just how much this combat system works better with the inventory system from Resident Evil 4. A testament to just how great this game plays is the mercenaries mode, a mode where you can choose one of 5 characters, all of which have different QTE attacks, and some of them have other gimmicks. Krauser has the bow and the demon arm that instant kills enemies with one swipe. Wesker has his ridiculous punches. Hunk has an absurdly overpowered gimmick where he has a QTE that allows you to instant kill enemies, including some boss monsters. You have 4 maps with different enemy types and placements, including a completely new level type and enemy. Your goal is to chain together combos for a high score, with score and time boosters scattered around the map. It's a well thought out horde mode that you could easily sink as much time into as you did the main game. It really highlights just how much you can do with this combat. Mercenaries can also be used to highlight how great this combat works with this game mode. Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries is actually great as well, because it doesn't rely on some of the things that Resident Evil 4's campaign had that it doesn't. It's putting those base mechanics into a simple arcade mode, alleviating pressures for smart level design or a more well thought out UI. This video was essentially me saying Resident Evil 4 is good, for 10 minutes in an incredibly long-winded way. But it's true, Resident Evil 4 is amazing. What inspired me to make this video is feeling the magic that everyone else did when it came out 12 years after the fact. All of its gameplay mechanics intertwine together in such a perfect way that makes it such a joy to play. Seriously, if you're like I was and have been wanting to finally play Resident Evil 4, just go do it. You won't regret it. Games like Resident Evil 4 do not come around often. It grabs you with the legendary beginning village. The combat is such an addictive ball of possibilities and scenarios that always keeps the game refreshing. There's constant unlocks and reasons to play the game over and over. There's just so much to do in this game, filled with an assortment of well thought out mechanics that all blend together perfectly for a combat system that would influence many beloved games after it. It's unfortunate Resident Evil 5 and 6 are what I would consider disappointments, but Resident Evil 4 will be a classic forever. Hello and thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. As of right now, I'd just kind of like to take this time to lay out what I'd like to do with this channel as well as who I am. So I am Captain Kuma, and I plan to release video game analysis / editorial / critique videos in the same vein as a Super Bunny Hop, The Gaming Brit Show, or Hyperbit Hero. As of right now, I plan to release 2 videos a week, but as this is my first week on YouTube, I'd like to release 3. So on Friday, I have a video planned for games that use their time well, where I'll be looking at Dead Rising, Persona 4, and Papers, Please as games all using their time effectively in different manners. On Sunday, I have a video on Sonic the Hedgehog, although I'd like to, keep the topic a secret for now. Anyway, thanks again. I really do appreciate it. If you liked the video, please subscribe or share with some friends. Please leave any comments with criticisms, concerns, or just any general thoughts on what I had to say in this video. So yeah, anyway, thanks again, guys, and have a good one.